of you, just comments on day one, being back to where we are. I know some of the guys were saying that you talked to them yesterday, Fitzy and Lindy, just how important is what we've talked about all last year and how you guys set the tone in training camp to accomplish what you did last season.
I think it's very important. We had a real good meeting. We talked about the areas we improved in, the areas we got to continue to improve in. Some of those areas were play away from the puck. We knew we had to be a better defending team in different situations, which I thought as a group we were a lot more committed. As a five-man group on the ice, just is trying to stay real connected, trust each other where they're at. And they're working on my new stick. Couldn't shoot really good with the one I had today.
I guess to kind of add to that, just Pete's over there. What was it that you saw in last training camp that needs to be replicated to feel like you're propelling yourself into the season properly?
Just real high intensity. That every drill, there's a purpose. There's an area we want to get better inside of every drill, whether it's our 2-and-2 drills and we're gapping up and we have good sticks. I mean, just small details where every drill is game-like intensity. And I think that made the difference. We carried that into games. I think the preseason we treated like every game meant something to us. That we were there to win the games, to accomplish something, to get better in different areas, and we have to maintain that focus. Part of yesterday was just saying we got to stay in the present. We really can't look back on last year anymore. We know that we had a good year. We want to try to remain consistent. And consistent means we want to be a good offensive team. We feel that that's our strength. We became a lot better defensive team. And I think we can get better in that area. We had a great lesson in the playoffs, and we need to grow from that.
Just to add to that, especially yesterday's talk with our players, and expectations and standards are obviously very high, rightfully so. We talked about how we got to this spot, especially my tenure here, and where we're at, watching these kids mature, building around them. I call it building around the edges, adding specific pieces that can help, tow this organization down the road of, championships. For me, like Lindy talked a lot about on-ice stuff. For me, it's about culture on and off the ice. How we represent the organization, what we expect from one another, what we, really what we permit from each other is what we promote for each other, and what can you tolerate? What you tolerate is what you celebrate, and a lot of talk like that. We call it the 3 C's: the connection, the commitment, and the compete, which is non-negotiable for this organization and players. We like where we're at. The window is just opening up for this group. So it's fun. It's going to be hard to win, but it's just a different feel this camp than it has been for me, anyways.
In what sense? I mean, I know you said, what is it that feels different? The expectation,
My job is to build a team. Obvious. I would say the thing that kept me up last year was us being a good team, not a great team, but a team that I felt could challenge for a playoff spot, scratch and claw its way in, but still a team and an organization that is still looking to build for down the road as well, which means selling off assets. Where you're in a playoff drive and a run, and you're maybe 3 or 4 or 5 points out. You're right there. It's a great experience, but you have an opportunity to get some, draft capital for down the road to continue to build the right way. That's not the feeling I have anymore. We're here. We'll be renting players, maybe our own, like we did last year. Maybe renting players at the deadline or during the season. That's what's different about it. Again, our expectations are to be the best version of the Devils we can. Winning a Stanley Cup is extremely hard. Only one team can do it. So cup or bust is something I don't believe in. It's just have a team that can challenge to be one of the better teams in the league from day one of training camp to whenever that last playoff game is. And that's all I ask. And that's all I ask from our coaching staff. Lindy touched on processes, and he talked about getting better. It's not just the players. It's my team, my staff, the coaching staff, athlete care. It's everybody. Come to the rink with a purpose to get better and learn and have a growth mindset versus a resistant mindset. And I think we'll get to where we want to go.
A couple little housekeeping things. Luke was on the ice just a little bit this morning. Do you have an update on what his situation is, why he wasn't fully participating or anything?
Yeah, we're just being cautious with a little bit of a nagging thing he's had. And, we don't play for another 3 weeks. But he's progressing great. He looks great out there, and I trust our staff that's handling him day in, day out, and the plan that we have moving forward with him, we believe is the right plan.
And then on the training camp list, Chase Stillman is there, but didn't skate at all today.
Yeah, he's gonna miss a little bit of time. Some bumps and bruises from the rookie camp, but nothing we expect long term for him.
And then finally, obviously, with Lindy sitting next to you, he is your head coach. Nothing has been sort of announced. Can you address having Lindy here as your head coach, and maybe I know normally we hear about extensions and all that, but just where
Lindy and I are working towards extending beyond this year. We'll get there. We're working on it.
Is there anything that's kind of hindering that, or is it the year's negotiation, the length?
No, to be honest, Lindy knows how I feel about him as our coach. He knows how David, Josh, and Tad feel about him as the coach of their team. It's just one of those things where when you do have a year left, like he does, you just, I don't know, maybe there was no urgency in the summer from me, but I know this was my plan and my recommendation to ownership is to extend Lindy beyond this year.
And what are your thoughts on Alexander Holtz, his kind of roster chances, and what he took away from your both your talks at exit interviews?
Sometimes we have to remember that, I'm talking about us, that they're young. He came over here as a 19-year-old. Expectations of an early first-round pick is extremely high. But he's a kid. He was a kid, and it takes time. These guys will pop when they pop. Last year, when he first came over, I thought he acclimated himself great to Utica. Played extremely well offensively. Got a lot to learn away from the puck as well, as we know. Coach isn't going to throw him on the ice if he's not committed away from the puck. So those are just an area that we wanted him to get better at. The other area is just playing with a little more pace. That's not skating faster. It's probably more thinking faster and reacting faster, anticipating quicker. And then next, your legs actually look like they're moving faster. But he looks like he's in great shape. All tests reveal that he's in the top shape he's been in the last 3 training camps.
And Lindy, you saw that today too, I presume?
Yeah, if I, judge it on just watching him in the last few days, watching him skate leading up to camp, I think he wholeheartedly made a big effort to increase his pace. I think Tom mentioned that, you got your play away from the puck has to be, solid as a young player. And I think we do take that for granted. Sometimes we think, well, he's 19, 20, he should know by now, but sometimes it takes time. Sometimes it takes a year or two, but I can honestly say that, what I saw in practice was a lot different than what I saw last year. And it's only one practice, but I watched him 2 days ago, and I was impressed with how he was moving on the ice. So, I think he realizes that it's an important time for him. It's been a couple camps now, and he wants to make a push to be part of this team.
And Tom, last one. When you talk about potentially renting players and moving to that next step, you had said earlier this offseason that there's always a goalie question. Is that something you thought of this summer, making a change there, and is that something you're continuing to evaluate?
Well, yeah, constant evaluation, but we trust the tenders that we have. Vitek had a really strong year last year, and some hiccups there down the end, tired, not conditioned to play the amount of games he played previous. That's all growth for me. It's being able to, adjust to the situation, understand, where he is, where he was last year, and I'm sure he'd be the first to tell you there was probably some breakdowns, maybe mentally tired. But expectations are for him for us to play the same way we played last year in front of him consistently. Take away both goalies or whoever plays in our net. The amount of chances. If we can limit that and play well in front of him, all we ask is just make the saves you need to make, and he did that last year. And Akira, 2 years ago, he definitely shouldn't have been even sitting on an NHL bench. But that wasn't the situation. We needed to use 7 goalies, including him, coming out of the USHL. It's a big jump. But the jump I saw training camp last year with him, we saw, it was just a maturity thing. Like all of a sudden, he just went from being a young player to, wow, geez, he's got a lot of calmness. He's really poised, doesn't get rattled. And you saw that in his play in Utica. And then when he came up, it was just like, he just played. And I believe the guys in front of him, played calmer and relaxed because they knew it wasn't the same player that was playing the year before. So, those two are going to get an opportunity to start, and carry the load for us.
Tom, you mentioned there's a plan in place for Luke. Does that include preseason games? Will he play in preseason games?
Oh, I anticipate, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Can you tell us anything about the extent of what's going on? Or
you know what, I can, but I don't want to. You know what, he's grown a lot. And even from the spring when he played, when he was here to now, you could just see the maturity in his body. And sometimes you grow a little faster than maybe muscles or joints or whatever, but he's just had some inflammation, and I do believe we've got a great team to handle him, and he feels great out there. We just don't want to overdo it and all of a sudden there's a setback.
Lindy, what did you like about Shimon Nemitz when you watched him in Buffalo, and what are you looking for maybe at this camp for him to have an impact and for him to maybe stay maybe a little longer, make it hard on the organization to send him back to the A?
I think his knowledge now of what the game is like over here. I think that he had a lot of focus and was involved a lot of trying to create a lot of offense and take a lot of chances, and inside of a game that was probably the thing that hurt him the most. What I saw in Buffalo was determined to play well defensively. Had the puck a lot, was strong with the puck. Didn't have a lot of risk in his game. And I think that, you're in that position where, as a young defenseman, if you put too much risk in your game, a lot of times that can go the wrong direction on you. But strong, he's even stronger now. And I think, if I say it takes a little while for forwards, it takes even longer for a young defenseman. It takes longer, it'll take longer for Luke. It'll take longer for Nemec. The history of those guys is, sometimes it's up and down. But I saw good things. I think he understands where his game had to get better. And our job as coaches is to help him get there.
Lindy, you heard Tom talk about the expectations, and you mentioned consistency. You've been around teams, you've coached teams with huge Stanley Cup caliber expectations before. I wonder what your intention is in terms of building from those experiences, coaching those teams, and then sort of, because this is like the last new hurdle for this team to overcome is, they made the playoffs last year. They went from, not having expectations to now having expectations. How can this team sort of achieve them, and what's your intent in terms of trying to get them to achieve it?
Well, number one is trust in the way we believe we have to play to be a good hockey team. Strength of our team, number one, has been our speed and how fast we play the game. Number two is the speed that we have to use to defend, to get back and get people back, to track back. I think it was something that frustrated a lot of teams that we played against. I think in the end against the Rangers, it was something that frustrated a lot of their key players. Was that second and third effort to get back in our zone and play well defensively. If you want to be a good team year after year, you have to remain consistent. You have to know who you are. There are teams in the league that know, we're gonna build our team around winning 2-1 every night. We know right now that we're a good offensive team. That's a strength. We knew going into last year that we had to become a better defensive team. And everybody bought into that. Now it's just to remain consistent, to not lose sight of how we got there. And just keep getting better. Believe in what you're doing. Help your teammates out. We got, in all likelihood, 2 or 3, 4 new players that'll be in the lineup. And from day to day, it's just trying to be consistent in how you play and how you practice.
And Lindy, your answer there might in part answer this question, but for you and Tom, you won 52 games last year, most in franchise history, more points than any team in franchise history. How do you guard against the record might not be as good, but you're on the path you want to be, which is to get past the second round and maybe challenge for a Stanley Cup? Is there a way of managing that outwardly it doesn't appear to be as good, but actually you're right where you want to be?
Well, just what Tom said going into last year, we thought we could be a playoff team. That, we did a lot of good things. We would become a playoff team. We did become a playoff team. We finished high. We had a lot of things go right for us. Our goaltending, as we mentioned, was better. Our defensive play was better. Our offense was good. We want to continue to, play to our strengths, improve in the small areas where we can. Along the way, you need some puck luck too. You need some bounces. You need, I think I could go 2 years before and say, we played a lot of really good games. I've never seen so many pucks hit the post and not go in. So a little bit of that is at times you need, things to go right for you. And we had some of that, where the year before we didn't have any of that. We had injuries catch up to us the year before. Last year, for the most part, we stayed, fairly clean. So there's a lot of things that go into, if you want to remain a good team, that means that at the end of this year we should be a good offensive team. We should be a good defensive team. And then, we'll see where we land at the end of that. It may not be third overall. We can't predict that, but you want to be in the playoffs. You want to be in good position in the playoffs. So there's a lot of things that you can control, but there's a lot of things you can't control going in.
I would say the expectations, we have expectations every year, and whether lofty or achievable, they are goals. And that goes along with the plan that I've laid out, that Lindy was picked to be our coach to execute that plan. You've heard us talk in the past about the learn the win phase. That's learning how to, play the right way on the ice. Staying on side, stupid things, not too many men on the ice. It's, puck management with a minute left in the game, getting pucks out of your blue and getting in at their blue. It's small things that add up to learning how to win. You've heard us say that. Those were our expectations then. And as we grew, the expectations were that, let the young players play. Let them do what they do well. Don't just, sit their ass on the bench for every mistake. Let them grow. Let them have trust in you as a coach, which they do, that they're going to get another shift. because that'll benefit us, and I think we've seen that. You know, the boom of our players. You know, Nico's now a Selke candidate. Jack is, you know, probably going to be an MVP candidate. You know, the growth of Jesper Bratt, Mercer. You know, again with Nemec and Holtz, same thing. It's a little different though now because, you know, what's to lose is a lot bigger than what was to lose then. But surrounding those young kids with the Toffoli's and the Palats and Dougie and Smith, and Holla, like the consistency in the words in the locker room to stay on course was so important. Those were the expectations. Where that took us, who knows? But just having that plan in place where now we expect guys to do the right thing, or there is accountability. You know, that's how you grow. You know, you add that accountability to a young player's growth. They understand the severity of one selfish play could turn up in the back of your net, and that's not winning hockey. And we're all about winning hockey now.
One of the veteran players that you added this year was Tyler Toffoli. Lindy, I was just wondering your thoughts on his addition in the room and on the ice, and where you feel like you'll slot him in the lineup.
Well, I think we've added a great piece. We've added a player that's won a Stanley Cup. He knows what it's like. He knows how hard it is. I really feel he's a good two-way player. Offensively, obviously his numbers were really good last year. But a veteran guy that I'd look like him to parallel to Plot, where they know how to win. They've been on winning teams. And when they know how to win, it's easy for a player of that caliber to say to the next young guy, this is how we got to get it done. A young player can't go, what do you know about winning? Because they've won. They've been there. They've been through that battle. Plot's been through that battle. He's, you know, you got to have a lot of respect. I mean, even as a coach, you got to have a lot of respect for those guys that have won. And then as a young player, you know, you bring in these guys and you sit them next to your young guys. You sit them next to a Mercer. You sit them next to a Bratt, to a Hughes. I think it's invaluable.
And Tom, he's a UFA next year. Just wondering about talks.
I have talked to his agent. You know, the message is, you know, let's get to know one another here. He's excited to be here, as excited as we are to have him here. To just go off of what Lindy was saying about him, you know, what these players come in and do is really important, but what they say is probably as important. For us to get to the next level, we're gonna need our players to turn themselves over to the team. What's best for the team might not be best for you, but what's best for the team. And that's not just third or fourth liners not getting the 15 to 18 minutes that they need, but understanding that what you do and what you bring is going to help us win. And same goes for the top six guys, power play guys. Not everybody's going to be on the first power play. You can only have 5 guys out there. So, you know, turning yourself over to the team, I think, is the next step. And I think the Palats and the Toffoli's would tell you every team has guys that do that for the good of the team. And you'll see that here.
And Lindy, you added Travis Green to your bench. Just what does it mean to have someone who has that much experience, you know, all of his years playing, coaching, head coaching experience as well? Tyler also talked about having comfort level with him because they worked together in Vancouver. Just your thoughts on Travis?
You know, just a great addition. I didn't know a lot about him. I didn't know him personally, but I'd heard a lot of great things, met with him a few times, and just his energy and enthusiasm for coaching and talking about helping players develop. You know, the way he looks at the game from an offensive side, and not just offense, but, I mean, he was a head coach in Vancouver. I think he has a lot of respect for how hard the game is, where we can improve the game. He's already looked at a lot of our games and, you know, asked, you know, why we do this, why we do this, could we do this better, is there a reason? So it's a valuable piece that has lots of experience, and he has lots of experience with younger players, and I think he's going to be a good addition.
Lindy, with the absence or with the departure of both Graves and Severson, that obviously opens up a lot of two big spots, a lot of minutes on your defense. How do you see the competition playing out throughout camp about who can maybe grab those minutes and what those spots mean to your group right now?
Yeah, well, you have young guys that are going to battle for those spots. You got Nemec, you've got Luke, you've got Kevin Ball, then you've got the veteran guys. You got the Miller, you got Smith. So there's lots of pieces there that are going to create real good competition, and the player usually makes the decision for you. The type of camp he has, the way he plays in preseason, puts him in a good spot for where we think he'll fit in. The two players we lost were very good for our team. They helped us make us a good team. But I think any time you end up being a good team, you lose some good pieces. You always do. Maybe a year ago, as Tom mentioned, we might have had one good line, and then we had two good lines. Now we got three good lines. So his point about giving yourself up for the team, I was going to get to the fourth line, because our fourth line might have been our best line at the end. So you end up with on different nights, everybody is important when it comes to winning a hockey game. And, when you look at some of these young D we've got, they're going to push and try to make an impression that's going to say, you can't send me down.
Tom, I'm just curious. I know it's a few months away, but just thoughts on the organization playing an outdoor game in February.
I think it's great for the organization. We're excited. I know the players are excited. Ownership's excited. Just to be selected to be part of something like that is really special. I've been part of it with my old team I was at, but I never actually attended. But this will be my first. I actually watched my sons play at Fenway Park College. It was cold, so hopefully our suite's heated. But we're excited. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Listen to him. Hopefully my suite is heated. Oh, my God.
That's the
biggest problem we got.
Who said it's a problem?
Lindy, have you coached in an outdoor game? I can't recall.
The very first one.
The first one.
Buffalo, Pittsburgh, where
That's right.
It snowed like crazy.
Yeah. What are your memories of that?
Incredible atmosphere.
Yeah.
I still remember somebody criticizing the game because there was so much snow coming down and it was hard to play, and I remember saying it was the greatest thing about the game. It was incredible. I still remember the goal of Crosby coming in on Miller and in the shootout and putting it 5-hole, and it was something that for me I'm not going to forget. It was you look around and you think you're in a big building when you go 18,000. Now you're in a building that has 60, 70,000 people. It was I've been involved in a few now, and it's a great experience.
That was the first one I got invited to. I was watching that from my couch.
And thank God. I'm just going to say thank.
Heat was on in the house.
They had heaters on the bench.
and it looked cold.